Week 46 Day 1. Ascertain, discover, find out what sense. In order to ascertain the relationship between his girlfriend and his brother, he kept a wary and discreet vigil. Sense ascertain, verb T formal, to discover, to make certain. The police have so far been unable to ascertain the cause of the explosion. Plus that I ascertained that no one could overhear us before I told Otto the news. Plus question word of you ascertained whether she's coming or not. Dormant, resting, sleep. Since he was appalled, shock at the apathy concerning the important issue that had remained dormant for so long a time. Since dormant, adjective 1, describes something that is not active or growing, but which has the ability to be active at a later time. The long dormant volcano has recently shown signs of erupting. These investments have remained dormant for several years. To lie dormant: if something lies dormant, it is not active. Her talent might have lain dormant had it not been for her aunt's encouragement. Burgeoned, flourished, grew. Since while some Moribund economies atrophied after World War II, others burgeoned under the salubrious effects of loans from the U.S. Since burgeon, verb I, literary, to develop or grow quickly. Love burgeoned between them. Burgeoning, adjective. The company hoped to profit from the burgeoning, quickly developing communications industry. Potentate, ruler. Since the callous potentate kept an imperturbable mien when requested to alleviate the unconscionable conditions existing in his land. Since potentate, noun. See literary, a ruler who has a lot of power, especially one whose power is not limited, for example by the existence of a parliament. Disseminate, spread. Scat. Since we are quick to disseminate calumny, but reticent about things that may be construed as compliments. Since disseminate, verb T formal, to spread or give out something, especially news, information, ideas, etc. To a lot of people. One of the organization's aims is to disseminate information about the disease. Dissemination, noun. U formal, the dissemination of information straight from the shoulder in a direct, open way. Since I took the wind out of his sails by telling him straight from the shoulder that I was not going to wink at his apple polishing. A mighty empire. One of the anomalies of our approach to history is the propensity to study the venerable empires of Europe, but we do not feel it incumbent upon us to ascertain anything about the civilizations in our own hemisphere. We deprecate the history of this part of the world, as though progress lay dormant, and that other peoples were irrelevant until the settlers of North America arrived at Plymouth Rock. In South America, from 2000 BC until their empire reached its acme at the beginning of the 16th century, lived the Incas. The site of the capital city of the Inca Empire, Cusco, lay at a height of 11,000. This civilization is reputed to have burgeoned until it covered more than 2,500 miles of the western part of the continent. Its population fluctuated between 4 and 7 million. This empire had a highly efficacious political and social system. Its potentate ruled with absolute power. As the empire conquered new lands, it would disseminate its language, religion, and social customs. Week 46 Day 2. Derived, descended from, received from a source. Since a pragmatic philosopher derived the theory that we have noses in order to hold up our eyeglasses. Since derive, verb derive sth from sth, to get or obtain something from something else. The institute derives all its money from foreign investments. She derives great pleasure, satisfaction, from playing the violin. Since derive from sth, phrasal verb often passive, to come from something. The English word olive is derived from the Latin word oliva. Derivation, noun. C or u, the origin of something, such as a word from which another form has developed, or the new form itself. Derivative, adjective, disapproving. If something is derivative, it is not the result of new ideas, but has been developed from something else. His painting style is terribly derivative. Derivative, noun. C specialized, a form of something, such as a word, made or developed from another form. Detestable is a derivative of detest. Prerogative, an excessive right or power. Since he gave his adversary the dubious prerogative of choosing the weapon by which he was to meet his inevitable end. Since prerogative, noun. C usually singular, formal, something which some people are able or allowed to do or have, but which is not possible or allowed for everyone. Alex makes all the big decisions. That's his prerogative as company director. Skiing used to be the prerogative of the rich, but now a far wider range of people do it. The royal prerogative, the special rights of the ruling king or queen. Since royal prerogative now knew the special rights of the ruling king or queen, nepotism, favoritism towards relatives, since your efforts to ingratiate yourself and to your boss's favor are nullified by the unmitigated nepotism manifest in this firm. Since nepotism now knew disapproving using your power or influence to obtain good jobs or unfair advantages for members of your own family, he was guilty of nepotism and corruption. Nepotistic adjective, disapproving, dearth, scarcity, lack sense. In the potpourri mixture of restaurants there is no dearth of succulent juicy dishes. Sense dearth, noun as formal, an amount or supply which is not large enough, a lack, a dearth of new homes in the region. Internecine, involving conflict within a group, mutually destructive. Since the emissary from the president tried to allay the fears that a deleterious internecine feud degrees was inevitable within the party. Since internecine adjective, formal, internecine war or fighting happens between members of the same group, religion or country. Internecine war, warfare, to rub a person the wrong way, to do something that irritates or annoys. Since the quickest way to rub a person the wrong way is to give him the cold shoulder. A battle for power. The Inca emperor derived his prodigious power and authority from the gods. The paramount superior god was the sun god. It was from him the ruler passed on his prerogative to rule to his most astute son. This nepotism had worked with great efficacy for centuries. The land holdings were immense. There were rich farmlands and llamas and alpacas for wool. Precious metals were plentiful, silver, copper, bronze, and the most sacred of all, gold. This metal resembled the sun god whom they extolled. There was no dearth of idols and ornaments hammered from this gleaming metal. There was always more gold coming from the mines to replenish the supply. At the acme of his power, the Inca ruler died without naming the requisite successor. In 1493 two sons began an internecine struggle for control. For the next 40 years the empire sank into the last it had caused by civil war. Null week 46 day 3. Tyro beginner, novice. Sense, although he was erudite scholar about a copious number of things, he was a naive, callow tyro when it came to relating to girls. Sense tyro, noun, see plural. Tyro's a person who is new to an activity. I look forward to seeing this young tyro's next ballet. Sophistry, false reasoning or argument. Sense her sophistry made use of every glib artifice. Sense sophistry, noun, you, formal, the clever use of arguments which seem true but are really false in order to deceive people. Sophism, noun, see formal, an argument which seems true but is really false and is used to deceive people. Sophist, noun, see formal, it was basically a selfish act, though no doubt a sophist would argue that it was done for the general good. Factitious, sham, artificial. Sense in the office he played the factitious role of a martinet, while at home he was filled with compassion. Factitious adjective, formal, false or artificial, he has invented a wholly factitious story about his past. Encomium, high praise. Sense the modest prodigy, genuine, treated the fervid encomium that followed his performance as though they were a mere bagatelle. Encomium, noun, plural. Encomiums or encomia, formal, a piece of writing, speech, etc. that praises someone or something. Obloquy, disgrace, shame, dishonor. Sense John Wilkes Booth's egregious act remains an infamous obloquy. Obloquy, noun, formal, very strong public criticism or blame. His controversial essays have brought him much obloquy. To draw in one's horns, to become cautious. He knew he was out of his depth, so he drew in his horns and quit the poker game. A perfidious conqueror. The feuding between the rival sons reached its pinnacle peak in 1532. At that moment Francisco Pizarro came onto the scene. A native of Spain, he was sojourning in Panama when he heard of the riches to be found in that far-off land. Overwhelmed with cupidity, but still a tyro, when it came to wresting power and wealth from hapless people, he joined with an inveterate adventurer. They gathered a small band of mercenaries. The first two attempts failed, and Pizarro returned to Spain to request authority and money, in order to conquer the west coast of South America. Whether by sophistry or cajolery he was given the requisite aid. With a force of 180 men, the dregs of society, he invaded Inca territory. He reached the city where the current ruler, Atahualpa, was holding court. The Incas welcomed Pizarro who, in a factitious display of friendship, heaped encomiums upon Atahualpa. Unknown to the Incas, Pizarro had brought guns that were still beyond the technology of these people. The obloquy of his next act, ambushing the Incas and taking Atahualpa prisoner, will live in the history books that are replete with tales of conquest. Null Week 46 Day 4. Hyperbole. Exaggerated figure of speech. Since the rhetoric soared into flagrant hyperbole. Since hyperbole, noun euformal, a way of speaking or writing that makes someone or something sound bigger, better, more, etc. than they are. The blurb on the back of the book was full of the usual hyperbole: enthralling, fascinating, and so on. Hyperbolic adjective. Formal. Hyperbolic rhetoric. Munificent, generous. Since he was surprised by the munificent gratuity given by the usually parsimonious term against scolding Wowan. Since munificent adjective. Formal, very generous with money. A former student has donated a munificent sum of money to the college. Munificence. Noun euformal, I thanked them for their munificence. Prevarication. Deviation from the truth, lying. Since her constant prevarication made her a pariah to her friends. Since prevaricate. Verb I formal, to avoid telling the truth, or saying exactly what you think. He accused the minister of prevaricating. Prevarication. Hide. Phonetics. Noun euformal, all my attempts to question the authorities on the subject were met by evasion and prevarication. Charisma. Quality of leadership, inspiring enthusiasm. Since even those who were not fans of the movie star candidly admit the charisma that surrounded him. Since charisma. Noun a special power, which some people possess naturally, which makes them able to influence other people, and attract their attention and admiration. On screen, Garbo had this great charisma, so that you couldn't take your eyes off her. How did a man of so little personal charisma get to be prime minister? Charismatic adjective. Few were able to resist this charismatic and persuasive leader. Genocide. Planned destruction of an entire people. Since the United Nations has outlawed genocide as the ultimate crime, which must be eradicated. Since genocide. Noun the murder of a whole group of people, especially a whole nation, race or religious group, victims of genocide. Genocidal adjective. A genocidal war regime, to throw cold water to discourage a plan or idea. Since I was going to pull up stakes and move out lock, stock, and barrel. Paragraph, but my wife threw cold water on the whole thing. The end of an empire. The Machiavellian Pizarro held the captured Atahualpa for ransom. He was adamant about receiving a room filled with gold to the height of a man's shoulder. This was taken as a hyperbole at first, but Pizarro knew the gullible Incas would be munificent when it came to rescuing their sacred ruler. They did not procrastinate, and a frenetic collection of gold took place. Pizarro, to whom prevarication was natural in dealing with the Incas, had no qualms about executing their ruler as soon as he had the gold. The Inca Empire was moribund, but the charisma that surrounded Atahualpa was such that, after his death, the Incas fought on tenaciously in his name for several years. Eventually, superior weapons quelled all opposition. A policy of genocide was adopted by the Spanish conquerors, and almost 2 million of these proud people died in the carnage slaughter that followed. The saga of an ancient civilization thus came to an end. Week 46 Day 5. Words, words, words. You have been strengthening and building a basic vocabulary as you have progressed through this book. The tests, quizzes, and exercises have helped you ascertain how far you have advanced. We hope you have come to the end of 1100 words you need to know with a command of vocabulary that has burgeoned from week to week. Your interest and attention have paid off in many ways. You have derived pleasure and knowledge from reading passages on varied topics. You are better equipped to read, study, converse, and write with confidence. The objectives that started you working on building your vocabulary should not now become dormant. A permanent desire to master new words should be an added value obtained from this book. We hope that any encomium you receive for your command of English vocabulary will spur you on to more and greater mastery of words you need to know.